Hi, Fred, and all those in the schoolhouse. I wanted to confirm that you could hear me.
And we can see Liz, who appears to have a very nice background.
Oh, Castellea.
That's it. This, I think it's the background from the school. I don't know that that's the live view because
It's a
None of-
background, yes.
yeah. none of those trees are moving at all. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, I just wanted to say hi to everybody. And as a reminder, my practice is to be here available throughout the meeting for questions. I'll keep my screen off, but I am as an observer of the process and a liaison for the town council. So thank you for being there today, and I'm available for any questions throughout the meeting.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Shall we get started? Can we get started?
Yes, just a reminder for everyone to speak into the mics and also to press the button here to speak. And then I wanted to indicate that everyone online is, we have Liz Babb and Dan Quinn, and then phone number 7562. So we can get the meeting started. Thank you.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We are starting at 9:03 a.m. We will do roll call first. All right. I am here. Gary is not here yet. He should be coming. Jacqueline?
Here.
Liz is on Zoom.
I'm only here as a member of the public because I don't have a public space
Yep.
due to the Brown Act.
Yep. Joe? Alex is not here. Barb? Ellie? And Susan. Yeah. And Ellie's name is misspelled on our letterhead. I'll get that fixed. Okay, we will start with, what's that? Teresa is not a member of the committee. But Teresa is here. Yes, we acknowledge as our connection to conservation. Okay, oral communications for items not on the agenda. I have one that I will actually get started with, and before we get the queue going. I got an email from Katerina Strohmeyer with a couple of comments. One is on the trail conditions and equestrians and bikes still on trails. Obviously, let's set the bikes aside for a second. But there was equestrians on Old Spanish, except the gates are still up, correct? So I think what may have happened, I went out and I looked at the prints and they looked like they were coming down. So there may be a place where folks are going in to Coal Mine Ridge that somehow they got access to Old Spanish and then came down. So might be worth us just taking a look at what those points are. Because I was surprised, because I feel like I've never heard of any equestrians disregarding our gates. Yeah. Okay. Okay. They were yeah, you can, I mean, you can go see, they definitely went around the gate on Old Spanish that way. Sure. Sure. Yes. And then, you know, there's also on that particular trail, there's also bike tracks, which are unfortunate because I think anyone who would like to see more bike access, we don't want to see bikes on trails where they shouldn't be. Old Spanish Trail, particularly during the wet, because bikes also can damage the trails. So in my back and forth with Katerina, one thing that she suggested was that we sort of do a kind of a monthly information update that similar to what the Conservation Committee does, just re-highlighting for people what's going on the trails, saying, you know, giving people context on when we think, say, for example, they're going to open up to equestrians. So I would be definitely in favor of doing something like that. I'm happy to actually write it myself. But I wanted to just maybe open it up to the group for discussion. If we've done anything like this in the past, or Oh, no, just have sort of a monthly update that we send out to the community where that's a type of information that we might include.
Instead of just waiting till it fails, but dry and then opening them up. for the-
Yeah, and giving people an update, wildflowers are coming. The town has a plan to make sure that we don't decimate all the wildflowers before they go to seed. I don't know, we could talk about different things you might see on the trails this time of year. Where to watch out for rattlesnakes, Toy on Trail in the afternoons in the summer, maybe a place you don't want to be. Those kinds of things, just kind of more of an informational thing, kind of like the Conservation Committee highlights what's going on. So I'd be happy to do this. I don't know if we've done this before or where we would do it. Would we just do like a post to the forum, an email out through the town? How does conservation do it? 'Cause
I'm
I don't
happy
know that-
to, I'm happy
We
to
ha-
jump in and answer if you'd like.
Oh, sure, that's fine. Yeah, we had Teresa. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that.
That's okay.
Just for context, the Conservation, Sustainability and Wildfire Preparedness Committee all do this. Sustainability hasn't done it as frequently as the other two. And it's posted through the town newsletter on the town website. And then the committees often to their own choosing decide to also post on PV Forum.
That's great. Okay, then I will follow up with you just to see how to get it into the town newsletter, and we'll give it a try.
I support.
Virginia.
I do support us making this kind of communication. I don't know how different it's gonna be. Each month it's gonna be difficult to have new material,
Yeah,
but however you do it. It's a
we,
good idea.
we don't even necessarily need to do it monthly. We could do it when as needed.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, like, you're right, because now the weather's been nice, and so it would be good to say, hey, weather's nice, but trails aren't open yet, so, and here's why, more rain, and we wanna make sure, and.
Well, and there's some trails that are dry, and there's some trails that are definitely not dry.
Yeah.
yet.
But
so.
it could even be season, you could do it 4 times a year. it's
Yeah.
been season.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're still on oral communications. Liz has her hand up, so Liz, we'll go to you next.
Okay, great, thanks. I wanted to encourage as a member of the public speaking right now, I wanted to encourage the committee to put, if it's possible, and maybe Sarah can weigh in on this, to put on the next month's agenda another vote, whether we want to be a town manager committee or a Brown Act committee, because when we voted on that before, we didn't have this very handy dandy grid that the town council came out with that showed the differences between the two types of committees.
Mhm.
And I would have voted differently if I had that grid and seen that grid. And as an example, I would be able to contribute via Zoom if we were a town manager committee, and I can't contribute as a committee member right now. So I'd like to see that if it's possible to take another vote, I would like to see that on the agenda for next meeting, but I don't know if it is possible, given the town's rulings, and Sarah would have to say whether or not we're even allowed to, like, when do committees get to vote again, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure if we did a proper vote on deciding that. I did have a conversation with Gary about this sometime in the last month. And I'm not sure that grid actually makes the grid, I think, oversimplifies the difference between a Brown Act and a town manager, a Brown Act committee and a town manager committee. We can certainly follow up, but I think that this committee, given the significance of some of the issues that we need to continue to advise on, particularly things like Hawthorns, things like the Stanford Wedge, that we want to remain a Brown Act committee. But I can follow up again. Maybe Sarah, this is something that we can discuss as well, and then can determine whether or not we want to, whether it's appropriate to bring it for a vote or how we want to proceed. But it's a good, I think it's a good, given that grid, it is a good thing for us to take a look at again and make another kind of conscious decision about how we want to move forward. So I appreciate the push. Do we have any other oral communications, any other hands up? I know we've got Dan on the line and then we have the other number. It looks like we have 7 folks on Zoom or 7 entities on Zoom. You see any more, Howard, before we move on?
We have Sarah Warnickoff's hands up still and Dan Quinn's hand still up.
Sarah, is your hand up for oral communication?
I just wanted to respond to the questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Just to be clear, any committee can readdress their Brown Act versus town manager status at any time. And my understanding is that Trails and Paths had decided, one thing we would need to look into, I think there are specific things that are related to your committee that overlap with town municipal code. And I think it puts you guys in a gray area, but if there's interest in re-exploring it, if you guys just let me know, I can pose it to the town attorney to get a more specific answer. But there were a couple of the committees, and Howard, maybe you could even chime in, just because of your oversight and budgeting of actual, town property, that put it in a little bit of a gray area, but I don't have the detailed answers to respond specifically. I'm happy to research that if there's interest.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that research just so we can make sure that we have a really firm understanding of how we want to proceed. I think that would be great. Because the upside of being able to be on Zoom and folks travel, particularly over the summer, like is certainly real. So we want to make sure that we're making the right call. Okay, Dan. Howard, is there a way for you to have on this screen showing all of the people? So I don't have to.
Yeah, let me try to adjust that right now.
Okay. Dan Quinn, we're not able to hear you at this moment, but go ahead, the floor is yours. Does it look like Dan's trying to speak?
No.
Okay, but his hand is up?
Yes, and then now Christy Corley.
Okay, go ahead. Let's move to Christy.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that you're going to call on the public after each agenda item so we can talk on those.
Yeah, we will happy to call on the public. Again, just a reminder for folks that the time will be limited to 2 minutes.
Right, so I won't say my comments now then, thank you.
Okay. Any other items for oral communications?
Dan, if you want to speak, you have to unmute yourself. Nothing yet.
Okay, we will go ahead and move on to the first item. So first item is approving the minutes from the last meeting. Any adjustments that people would request? Okay, any motions to approve? Motion to approve? Second? All right, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous approval of the meetings from the last minute. Thank you. Okay. So, we are keeping Hawthorns on the agenda. The only item that I wanted to note is 2 things. This Sunday, there is another visit, open visit to the property. You can go to the website to sign up, I think still. So I am currently planning to go there. I know Jacqueline went to one of the last ones and found it really useful. So welcome anyone to sign up there, also members of the public. The other thing is I believe there's a new proposal for parking that has been maybe just posted in the last 24 hours or so that uses the existing entrance to the property across from Roberts in the proposal, which has obviously the upside of not creating a new way in for cars. And we know that's a known place where cars enter and exit. But my understanding is that then the parking itself is right along Alpine Road. So certainly has an impact on the scenic corridor. So I don't know that there's much for us to discuss about that, but
I
Kelly,
think,
go ahead.
I think it was mainly to discuss the trails that had been suggested.
Oh, the trails, I don't
But I
believe
thought-
that I don't think there has been an update
I
on,
thought it said that when I read it. in
oh, on
email.
the Hawthorns? There's a new update?
It said they were gonna do a walkabout and discuss. the
Oh,
trails.
certainly. Yes. So the actual visit will be to potentially discuss the trails. Yes. And as far as I know, that the proposal that they shared at, I think, 2 meetings ago, looked really good. It conformed to everything that that we expressed, that we wanted, multi-use connections, addressing the Alpine Trail issues. But I think it would be, good to go and hear more. Barb?
I had somebody approach me after they went to that Hawthorne's meeting because they knew I was on the Trails Committee. And they said they live in the ranch and they are very concerned that if the trails, there's connectivity there, that bikes will start coming in that way. It's not something I considered, but she said there was a pretty vocal bike element in the meeting, and she became very concerned about that. And I said, well, I will bring that up for the Trails Committee. So
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple of ways to combat that in terms of how the entrance is constructed. There's signage that I think can be given in the trail in the Hawthorns. And I think beyond that, I don't see any sort of increased risk to bikes coming in on the trail. I mean, there is, people do use that trail for bikes, Sweet Springs. But yeah, I think it's a good concern to raise, and I think we can make sure that the Hawthorns group manages it appropriately.
I think I did see on the last draft they had, they made sure to show that the connection itself was not okay for bikes. And then, the loop within is, but that was, I think, so as long as I think there's clear signage.
Signage, and they can make the entrance, the connection. I mean, they can make it so that it is not physical barrier there. Yeah, I think would be fairly straightforward to do, but it's a good point. Any other Hawthorns items? Anyone from the public want to make a comment on Hawthorns?
There are 2 hands up, Christy Corley and Dan Quinn, so we can
Okay,
take Christy Corley first.
Christy, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to get an update from Howard on any communication with the town regarding this parking area and trails. We noticed from the last meeting that Alpine Trail would not go into the parking lot because of the fences, because we are open 24 hours and MROSD closes at sunset. So if you can, and then they said that the Alpine Trail would be fully the town of Portola Valley's responsibility. So I wanted to get any updates from Howard on that. And I do believe they took a straw poll, or they did a hands up, hands down for each item regarding trails. And I believe the majority of hands were raised for being open to dogs. So that's pretty significant. And then I don't believe I'm not sure how the vote went. And this is just a preliminary vote. It wasn't a real vote. But a preliminary vote shows where the voting members stand. So you could go into the last meeting and watch it if you're real interested in this. But each item, they did a straw vote, a preliminary vote, sorry, for those that are interested. You didn't mention the hours this Sunday, but it is 9 to 1 o'clock. And you need to sign up ahead of time and be on time because you walk through the property. So there's no kind of coming in late. So I encourage anyone from Portola Valley interested in this 79 acres minus 12 to attend. Thanks.
Thank you, Christy. Howard?
I don't have an update on that since the MROSD hasn't not provided any official submittal to the town yet. And I think we talked about that before, where after their public participation portion, that they would do a submittal to the town, and that's when we would comment. So
Yep.
Thank you. And if there's any more information I can offer, Christy can reach out to me directly also on any.
Well, I'm just wondering, Howard, if you're planning to go this Sunday. I think this is really important for Public Works, any parking area along Alpine Road, which now it looks like, you know, they're number 7, number 8, and now number 9 parking area that they're leaning to. We will see 50, you know, cars right along Alpine Road.
Yeah, I think the latest proposal actually reduces that to 30 for the ones along Alpine Road, but the parking is not the, I'll sort of set aside the parking for, I don't think it's a trails specific matter.
Well, it is because it's Alpine Trail connects to that parking lot. So, I mean, it. No.
Certainly, if the parking goes through the trail, it would be an issue, but I don't think that that's my understanding of the current proposal is that the parking does not go through the trail itself. Now, scenic corridor notwithstanding, I think that's a broader town issue for sure, but that is not this sort of a specific issue for the Trails and Paths Committee. And I do want to reiterate, just for folks who may not know, there will be a process by which the town engages directly after the POG process to understand all of the requests from MROSD to implement their plan for developing
Well,
Hawthorns.
one other comment, that the trails connect to the parking lot. And the bathrooms go in the parking lot and a turnaround area for the Woodside Fire Protection District. So a lot of trees are going to be removed there for that reason. And that's why I think the town needs to be, well, the people in the town need to comment how they feel about that.
Yeah, fair point for sure. Dan.
Dan, you have to unmute yourself, please.
Okay, we're going to move forward.
Sarah has her hand up.
Oh, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, quickly, I just wanted to underscore, Fred, what you added there in terms of the process. I think I agree with all the comments that it's great for the community to continue to provide their public comment through the MidPenn's online public comment portal, as well as attend meetings as possible. But to underscore, the process is an ongoing process. It will not come to the town for a study session, which is basically no decisions are even made at this point until, about 9 months from now. So we are in the middle of the process. I think public comment throughout is really important, but just to confirm, it will come to the town for a study session. And when I say that, it's the town council. It's coming to a study session after it goes through the MidPenn process. Then after the town council study session, it will go back to MidPenn before any final decisions are made. So we're over a year off from decisions. Just wanted to share that perspective.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to maps. The first thing, just following up from last meeting, we have process underway with Sarah and Judith to kind of make final determination of how we can release these maps. They're released because they're in our packet today, so they are out to the public. But there was a request just to have one last chance for feedback from the group. So I'll open it up to discussion. Susan.
Sorry. I looked at the map kind of quickly, a few days ago, and is it my understanding that Alpine Canyon Trail is still on that map?
It is still on that map. We had discussed that with a few folks, and the belief is keeping it on there is important to make sure that it is still considered, it's still communicated to the public. This is still considered a trail. I think the concern is, yes, you can't access it from the top at the moment. And we have this sort of disclaimer at the top that this may not represent exactly what's on the ground. But I think the belief was that it was important to keep it there to support the process of reopening access to it.
Has anybody looked at that trail lately? I looked at it maybe a couple of months ago, and I don't know who did this, but there's a whole bunch of boulders down there. The trail is pretty much inaccessible.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'm just wondering how wise it is to direct the public to a trail that is, first of all, it's gated off, it's not signed, and it's not accessible from the top of Cervantes.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what it's like. I mean, it just seems like if the map is a working tool, that we can take it off and then put it back on when the trail is open and accessible. I just hesitate to send people down a trail that might be dangerous. I mean, I understand the philosophy
Yeah.
behind it, but it's impassable.
Yeah, there's,
Impossible.
yeah,
too.
there's a couple of things. So one, when we discussed, so it's a Westridge trail. We discussed with Westridge, the desire was to keep it on there. In terms of, being able to, we certainly are not going to be able to remove trails based on conditions. I have not checked it, so I don't know. I mean, I do think there is a clear issue that you can't access it at this point. So I think that for me is the sort of the bigger issue. I don't know exactly what the conditions are on the actual trail itself.
We are the
Um,
Trails Committee, we should actually know what the conditions are before we send somebody down a trail.
I-
It's just, I'm probably the only one, but.
Well, I think if it was a town trail, I would totally agree with you
Right.
that it's not a town trail.
Right.
And our aim here is to be inclusive of the other trails in the system. So for example, I don't think we're gonna be able to make adjustments based on what happens in foothills. So for, a couple years ago, Los Trancos Trail had a big washout, Los Trancos Trail in Foothills Preserve. And I don't know that we would take that off or indicate that it was closed on our map. I think the best we can
No, but
do,
that's not our jurisdiction,
right, but neither is the Westridge Trail.
but it's in town.
It's in town, but it's,
But
yeah.
it's on private easements.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
my preference is to defer to the Westridge group if they want us to take it off their map, then certainly we can do that. We used their guidance to help us decide which of the Westridge trails we would include. And I think that's a reasonable principle, but lots of other folks up. So Jacqueline was first and then.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, it seems at a minimum, we could reach out to Westridge and just ask or suggest that some kind of a signage of like trail under maintenance or just some indication so that people don't, I mean, that seems.
I think the core issue is you can't even get access, you can't get to it
From the top.
from the top.
Because of that construction, the owner there.
Yeah,
Well, and
so
you-
that's fairly obvious then someone would try and go to it and.
Yes.
clearly see.
Yes.
Well, then, yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to add that a couple of years ago, when as equestrians, we're using this and have been using it for many years. We wanted to be able to continue to use it. And became a little bit of a battle to make sure that we could justify that it was a legitimate and existing trail. So we put a lot of work into making sure that the acknowledgement of it existing is there. And so I would certainly want to keep it as an active trail.
I think the boulders have always been there. The boulders that Susan's talking about have always been there. She said there are lots of boulders. Well, I've only been down it on a
So
horse.
how about this? Maybe just on this particular one, we can do a follow-up and maybe do a couple of visits, talk to Westridge to confirm their approach. Because if conditions have changed, I mean, I think it's reasonable for us to make changes if conditions have changed, but we should maybe go back, double check that they want us to keep it on, if there's line of sight into,
We can just open the fence and go in.
No,
from,
It's fenced off.
from below or from up top,
Above.
above. Okay.
well,
yeah.
You're just asking if we can. No, we can't because it's not a gate that opens, but you can squeeze through.
Can't
there.
hear,
No,
we cannot hear people who aren't speaking into their mics.
So sorry. You can easily open it. I've done it before.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's how I saw the boulders blocking the trails.
Who is in charge of the Westwood Committee now? Because Mary Hufty is no longer. Do we even know who's in charge of the Westwood?
Well,
Can I just comment? I know I'm a member of the public, but I was the one who did all the outreach to Westridge.
yeah, go ahead, Liz.
So we did get confirmation on their current map regarding the trail. I have it in writing from them in an email. It's been documented, I think previously when we were discussing all this. So I have the name of the person. You can go back to him. I can look it up if you want me to, and you can go back to that person who sent approval.
Yep. So we'll take it as a follow-up, to just look into this particular issue. Happy to do that. Any other comments on the map?
I'll make one comment on the map that at first I was continuing to use the black and white version,
Uh-huh.
but I have found that the colored one, the names of the streets stand out more easily. And that certainly is one that I prefer to use now.
Yeah, I find the color one myself easier to use too, but I know that there are different opinions there, so. Okay. Well, any other, we'll again follow up to get it sort of located right on the town website. But we also did want to discuss, I know Jacqueline, you wanted to chat about the safe routes.
Wait, can you go back? Because there's
Sure.
public that wants to talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you able to see us yet?
No, I can't, sorry.
Okay, I think that's important.
Hold on a
So-
sec, Christy. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
Howard, what's the order of hands raised?
It's just Christy Corley and then Ms. Bab.
Okay, Christy, go ahead.
Okay, so on the last item, I had a question. Sarah had said that Hawthorne's would go directly to council and not to planning commission. So I'm always for the planning commission since it's land use so the public can hear discussion of our land use
Hey,
elected.
Christy, I just want to pause you real quick. So I think I want to just make a general point here that we want to make these meetings as efficient as possible. Everyone here is volunteering their time, taking time out of their day to come here. So I really want to make sure that we keep our discussions focused on trails. If there are
Okay, so
specifics about
Hawthorne's-
broader issues that you want to follow up with the town, please.
Hawthorne's is trails and it's going directly to council. So if she could comment on that, and then I am not for losing a trail, a Westridge trail, the Alpine Canyon Trail. I think we should keep it on the map. Thank you.
Thank you. Ah, there we go. All right, Liz, go ahead.
I'm sorry, did Christy want Sarah to comment on Hawthorne's Trail or no, we're going?
I mean, I think the I would prefer that we don't spend time at the Trails and Paths Committee meeting talking about the
Talking on
process
that. Okay, she
for
can
the
do that.
Hawthorns further. I think we've been
Got it.
clear. If there are clarifications desired, I would ask that folks use their own time and not the committee's time
Got it.
for those clarifications.
Got it, got it. Okay, on the main trail map, before we get to certs, I just wanted to throw it out there that there is the ability to have that map be enabled such that you could load it into something like Avenza and you can follow along as you're walking on our map. And once we get it up on the website, I'd like to see that as a potential next step for this map project.
Yes, that's a great point. And maybe one thing that I know that there's a potential issue there is software license. I know that there's maybe an opportunity for us to get the software license for free. But in the case that we can't get it for free, Howard, what sort of budget should we request a software license for enabling a map on to be accessible on a service like Avenza? Would that come from, it's not capital improvements, but would it come from your budget? How should we request that, if at all?
That would be a new budget request.
Okay, just a general new budget request.
Yeah, so you'll probably have to do a little research on what's it gonna cost.
Okay,
You know, if, of course, to determine a need, a want, and a cost, and then that would go to your budget request that you do when the finance department reaches out.
okay, great. Liz, thanks for bringing that up. I'll add that as a follow-up for me.
What is it called?
It's called Avenza, Avenza, and it's a program that allows you, there's lots of, physical maps that are out there, and it allows folks that make physical maps to enable them in an application that you can have on your mobile device so that you can combine the GPS capability of the mobile device with the map, so you can see where you are on the map. So you're not having to carry that physical map with you. It's certainly neat software. Mostly used in more sort of backcountry areas, I think, more so than our town. But
I will say that, we did do a test of it early on. Dave and who did the maps and that's the one I use. It's because I like to know, I still get confused on PV trails. So to be able to know where I am on one of those trails and know whether to go left or right to make
Yep.
my loop is really helpful. Also, I can give you some options too, Fred, of some people that may have the software to just enable that map and we wouldn't have to get a license.
Okay, great. I'll follow up with you then too. Okay, I don't see any more comments there on the trails maps. Did you want to discuss safe routes?
Yeah, I don't think there's much today. It's just, I want to make sure I understand the process. So Dave is working on taking the updates that are applicable that we made here to the Safe Routes to School map. We'll include that in next month's meeting, the same way we included
Yep.
this. And then it should just follow the same, like once that we approve that one, then we will be able to post that one. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, I
should-
think the idea is this is sort of the base map, and then we will sort of port over the safe routes to school onto this map and just have it as a separate sort of view of the map. Just so we're consistent, I think, because right now, the safe routes to school map is, I think it looks like a Google Maps screenshot maybe, or something like that. What's currently on the website, and it's not consistent with the existing trails maps. And so I think the idea is just to merge these two, and so that you have a
Like a
view.
subset. Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So we'll include that next time. And I don't
Yes.
know that I need to talk about it today. When we actually have the map in front of us, I just thought I could share like a brief update because I obviously see it every single day,
Yes.
sort of with what kids are doing and the traffic and how they're commuting. So I just thought once we have the map in front of us, I can kind of share what I've been seeing. But I did just want to check, it's been a while since we've followed up on, I know at first we were pushing and hoping it was for this school year, but I was just wondering, Howard, where it stands, if there is still progress being made on the flashing beacons at the crosswalk at Alpine Hills.
Yeah, we are progressing, but we are working with PG&E with some items on their infrastructure.
And is there a new goal for a completion date?
Not at the moment. We're discussing with PG&E. There was supposed to be some infrastructure located there that when we went around to go dig for it, that is not there right now. So we're working those things out. And obviously it is a delay, but once again, we are working on it.
Okay. Chrissy.
Yeah, I'm noticing from a San Mateo report that Woodside has invested as much as $1 million to ensure safe routes to school for the children. So I just thought this committee should know that. And I think that's the part that applies to this committee. So I'm wondering what funding, if at all, has been put into safe route to school. And as you know, I live on the corner of 15 Golden Oak. So I am by the crosswalk and I see every accident at Los Trancos and every accident at the bottom of Golden Oak. So this is real important. And if I'm wondering, Howard, if it's a solar system like Flock, and if we need PG&E to do 24/7 lights, I don't know, but Flock has figured out how to run their system of license plate readers all over the towns without electricity 24/7. So I guess that's my question. Thanks.
Yes, there is the option of the solar system, but we're looking at the aesthetics of the solar system versus not. So those are some of the things that we're looking into.
Oh, that would be a good discussion item for this committee then. Because maybe we're fine with it. I'm
Yeah, I
fine
think-
with flashing lights on the corner, so.
Yeah, I think we would defer to BPT&S on this particular issue. Certainly the Trails Committee is doing what we can to make sure that the usage of the trails is appropriate to support the Safe Routes to School. But then I think beyond moving towards discussions of power sources, there are other committees that have oversight on these issues.
Yeah, well, the bus lets kids out right in front of my house and they cross the street in that crosswalk. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so Fred, you're correct. If you can, Christy, if you could bring this up to BPTS, we do talk about this topic a lot. We've been talking about it for several years. So, and when I do want to put things in context, we are in the process of improving things as the funds come available. And over the last several years, we did install signs over about 10 intersections too. So things have been done over the last several years. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to weigh in?
Oh, I just know I'm just, as a mom in town, what bus are you referring to?
It's the high school bus that it used to take kids to Ormondale, Corte Madera, and Woodside High. So I assume those buses are going to come back. They've reduced our bus system, but when the housing comes back, the buses will come back.
Yeah, there's Sam Trans buses, I believe. And then there is another, I have seen another school bus, but I'm not sure. I think it's a private one. I don't believe it's signed as a school district, but there are buses there. We have a phone number. Is this maybe Caroline?
Yes, thank you very much for recognizing the number. Safe routes to school is very important. And I do have questions for our town council liaison, because we had a very nice program in 2013, 2014. And the Trails Committee and BPTS are supposed to work together. And we need some practical guidelines how to do this because we're not getting anywhere. And there's also another bus stop, not just across from Alpine Hills, but also exactly where Woodside Priory has its exit. Once again, I have asked BPTS to make those new designs by the consultant available. They're not according what was approved by town council. Town council had approved the study based on removing that crosswalk by Corte Madera, and nothing gets done. And as long as we don't have those publicized on the website so people can comment, nothing will be done. The Safe Routes to School is not just Safe Routes to School, it interconnects the trails that brings us from one part of Portola Valley to the other side, and to all our main attraction points. We have Town Hall, we have the library, we have the sporting fields. It is needed. Also, I would like to ask town council member, did you hear from our town attorney? Because she mentioned that there is no need for Safe Routes to School. And when that was brought up, we said, I'm sorry, this is so vital for our community. If this new town council attorney will think that we're not going to work on this, I don't think that that will fit well with the community, because we have been working on this for a long time, and it's so vital for not just bikers, but pedestrians, equestrians, joggers, everybody, to keep our community healthy. So these are my words. We need guidelines, and hopefully Town Council Liaison Sarah Warnikoff can help us with that.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. Sarah, did you want to reply? So I'm not sure that, oh, go
Sorry,
ahead, go ahead.
I was having a
Yeah.
hard time finding my mute button.
ahead.
I really don't have a specific reply to that. There was a lot mentioned just there, and if Carolyn, if you want to follow up with me directly, please do that. I'm not aware that the town attorney has said what you just said. I'm happy to research it, but to my knowledge, that's not something I'm aware of.
Okay, yeah, let's, I think I'll follow up there, because I do think, again, those issues with the crosswalk, I don't believe are trails specific issues. And I do think that the Trails Committee has, we want to make sure that we confine our engagement on the safe routes to the things that we oversee.
Yeah, and I will, again, when we have our map in front of us next week, I'd be happy to point out, I just felt it made more sense when we were all looking at it, but in my personal opinion, most of the safety issues I see are directly related to BPTS. As a mother, like, the things that concern me are not the trails at the moment. They're every place my kid has to cross the street. There's the fact that there's no biking like logos just showing at least between Corte Madera and Alpine Hills. It's the kids trying to cross at Los Trencos. I find that intersection quite terrifying. No kid uses that. Any kid, they feel more safe. They go and cross where there's not a crosswalk, which is between Firethorn and the back parking lot of Alpine Hills. That's what I've advised my kids to do. That's what groups of kids do, because that intersection isn't safe. So I know this is constantly brought up to our Trails Committee, and absolutely, like, I think, you know, we need to make sure the trails themselves are in good condition and safe, but I mean, where I see no action coming from is the BPTS.
Yeah. Okay. Chrissy, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I thought that the kids walk from Corte Madera, they go down Alpine Road, they cross at Roberts, they go down from Roberts along Alpine Road on the other side by the Ramies, then they come down in front of me and they're supposed to cross again. That is the normal routes to school. I mean,
Why? But I
yeah,
see,
right?
so I pick up my kids every single day at, especially walking. Why would they cross the street twice? They all just stay straight. So they just stay on the trail.
I just want to keep us on topic. Is there anything else trails specific, other than observation of the traffic pattern here?
Well, I think the bus is important too, and where it drops off. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda is the town hike. I think the quick update here is that we did follow up on Barb's suggestion to connect with Lucy Neely. I think that connection has been made. Alex is obviously not here, so we don't have an update.
I'm on the email too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so, yes, we're trying to get a meeting together with Lucy. That's
Great.
the update.
Cool. That's good. I think that's good on the timeline we're working on. Let's see, let's move forward to the horse fair. Is there anything?
It's happening.
Yes, what are our dates?
May 18
Okay,
and 11 till 2.
May 18, 11 to 2.
We're just in the throes of getting together all the insurance that the town requires. That's always the biggest, the biggest issue for us. But there's going to be, it'll be a great turnout and hopefully as many or more people than last year.
Yeah,
So
okay. Anything? that
I
y'all
have
need?
one question, and I'm not sure if Sarah can answer it or not, but we were just talking about how far in advance we need to, the town council has to vote or has to approve the monies on it. I mean, they've approved our budget,
Mhm.
but they also have to approve this. And I believe they only do it every 2 weeks, so we have to get all the vendors to have their bills to us by, I think, about a month in advance. Is that correct?
If your budget as a committee is approved, that's approved. We, in my experience in serving on the council for the last 3+ years, we don't approve individual efforts within an existing budget. So that would be different and news to me if that were the case.
I think it has to do with the finances, with checks. At least that's what they told me last year. It was a new thing for me last year. I'd never seen it before.
Yeah, perhaps we could take it offline. That would be news to me. So I'm happy to facilitate. If you want to send me an email, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe whatever the process was last year, it's not actually supposed to be the process. Okay, so horse fair, May 18th from 11 to 2. Put it on your calendars. Let's see. Next is capital improvements. So we're going to submit this. We submit it next month, right? Is when we typically submit our request for next year, April. So I don't think I received any on email, but Susan?
So I didn't email this to you, but I walked Shady Trail yesterday. And I think we need to put Shady Trail on the capital improvements list. If anybody's been on it lately, it really needs some work. There are a couple of areas that are, one, there's one where the land, the land is slid, but then there's another area where for some reason the water is higher than the trail and it's draining onto the trail and it's pretty much impassable, I think, when it's very rainy. It was hard enough to get by yesterday and it was getting dried out, but I do think it really needs to be looked at and rescued.
Is that on the upper half?
middle,
I would
yeah.
say upper half and then a little further down. Where, the town already has some caution tape and some sawhorses so that people don't accidentally, fall in, but that could use some work too.
Yeah. And just actually maybe to recap for folks, we have from last year Sequoia Trail reapplying all weather gravel and widening it as appropriate. We have Sawzell Trail. I think we discussed this last time of in addition to adding the drainage routes at the bottom, also checking at the top where the pavement ends, fixing the drainage issues there. We had some requests. We had a request for Portola Road Trail. I think particularly between Priory and call it the crosswalk. Well, not quite that far. Grove, I think, would be the next logical landmark. There were some places where there was a lot of standing water there.
think the Westridge actually.
All the way to Westridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Palmer Trail, we had said we wanted to redefine that one. Did that happen? Did we get Palmer Trail reestablished? You gotta turn,
The backside has been reestablished as part of the fence project at the
Mhm.
bottom over there.
Mhm.
But I think what this list refers to is the portion along the roadside,
That's right.
which
okay.
is,
Right.
you know, there traditionally, there's been a lot of private brush that grows into it.
Yeah. Some of us out there pulled some broom on that. Created, I guess, a little trail access for us, maybe. And then we have Alpine Road Trail transition the crosswalk from the trail. I believe that this is at the intersection of Alpine and Portola that we've discussed quite a bit, and hopefully this will be taken care of ultimately by the Hawthorns project. Any other things? So Joe had mentioned on email, actually, some improvements for Cervantes Trail west of Sioux Way. Any other items to get on here? Because just process wise, I think what we'll do is we'll have the list next time. We'll discuss the priorities, kind of get our committee to agree on the stack rank of them. And so right now, really, I think just want to get the brainstorm of what are the items that we want to consider.
We got to make sure we fit the deadlines for the submission of this. Howard, do you know when our request has to be in April?
Typically, we start our finance in April. I can let you know at the next meeting.
So if we have
when we assemble.
a month from now, in the middle of April, if we have our discussion, is that too late for us? Or-
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, good. I want to double check that.
Yeah.
Also, Howard, on the Shady Trail, that's been discussed for a couple of years now. Is there really any capital, from your experience, is there any capital improvement items there, or is it all just the maintenance stuff that's being worked on now?
So our crew, Scott, he goes out when it rains, and there are some issues with some of the private properties having water come onto the trail. And sometimes that water could be diverted for wherever it's coming from. So we're looking into that, and we're trying to keep it clear right now. But for your question as it's maintenance, there's going to be a combination of maintenance and potential capital improvements due
good.
to some of the
Good.
slides that happened from the rainstorms last year.
Good, thanks. We're gonna be, we'll be very specific on the location of the trail where we want any capital improvement work to be done, because it's a mile long. And so we will be specific.
Yeah, if you could, because I'm looking over the list as well as the crew over here. So there's going to be some, when we look at this, I mentioned this because of the budget. We are potentially going to be operating on a budget deficit here and maybe dipping into reserves potentially. So we're going to have to be very cognizant of that this upcoming year and kind of look at, what are nice to have and what is mandatory items. And so when we look at this list here, we're going to be looking through that lens, and then also be talking with the crew and Scott and saying, well, what are the mandatory items that you see out there too? And then balancing these things out. Because some of these things on the list here are very there's one that says improve the trail from Alpine, to potential town center. Those are tens of thousands of dollars that we're talking about. So I think maybe when we do look at it, to identify the actual spots instead of rocking the whole entire trail.
Yeah, and I think we should look at this through the lens of a sort of ROI, return on investment, and get a sense, hopefully next time you can give us a sense of the cost of the potential items so that we can make kind of informed decisions on how we want to rank them. We've got a hand up. Christy, go ahead.
Yeah, in addition to trails that get flooded, there's the Portola Road Trail that's right in front of the track for the Priory that often pools and you can't walk through it. It's by the culvert, I believe. So I don't know if we can build up that area so it stays above where it needs to stay, because that's a low point at the trail. And I'd like to hear Howard's response to that. And then there's a trail on Alpine between Roberts and Golden Oak that goes up to the Priory. That got washed out with a river coming through it. I don't know if it was this last year, but the previous year. So how do we maintain that trail that a lot of people use? And then I noticed Sweet Springs Trail had a river running through it this last rain and going across Saddleback. So I assume it's outside Hawthorne's fence, correct? So who maintains that trail, I guess is my question. And those are my comments. Thanks.
Go ahead, Howard.
I can answer that, Christie. I guess these 3 individual items, if you can take pictures of it and submit it to PV Connect, and we can address these things as best we can.
Yeah, the Portola Road one is one of the ones that I actually just referenced. I think we have to make a decision on whether or not it makes sense for us to prioritize that one. I mean, we'll have the discussion next time, but I think places where standing water happens for a few days are probably going to be less of a priority than places where you have real damage to a trail where it becomes difficult to pass for an extended period of time. So I will encourage us to sort of think in that through that lens. I mean, the weather makes trails wet. We're never going to eliminate, I think, all the puddles. But we want to, I think, focus mostly on preserving the integrity of the trails rather than trying to avoid all of the inconveniences that the weather brings us. So we will, I'm gonna call this item here. Additional ideas for capital improvements, feel free to send them my way. We'll get them on the list. And then next time we will have a discussion on how we want to prioritize our requests for next year. Just keeping track of time here. Let's move on to the trail maintenance review.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if there's any questions or not concerning the trail work. Most of the time, through the winter and early springs, a lot of it's going to be clearing water bars and fallen trees, and that's reflected in the spreadsheet here. Cleared water bars and fallen trees. About 20 hours were spent on the trails. And as a follow-up item from the last meeting, we did go out and take a look at the Sasso Trail at the very end over there, and we filled the rut there. And we'll continue to keep an eye on it. You know, upcoming, a lot of the mowing work starts taking place in May that we use a contractor for. And a lot of the trail maintenance, the trail tread or any rock work takes place in drier weather. And we are going to look at that area of Alpine and Portola also of looking to place some rock in there. The bridges, we're still working on the bridges that where the trees have fallen on the bridges. We have reported it to our insurance company and waiting for a response and going to move forward from there. Other than that, there hasn't been really a major complaints from the public or issues that we've received and have not taken care of. So
yeah.
Overall, we haven't received many complaints. That concludes my this portion of the update. Thank you.
Fred, I'm going to leave now.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so. Good on quorum. Thanks for installing that post on Eagle. I do think you cleared a tree on Eagle. It's not listed on here. Maybe that was last month, but that was appreciated. Let's see, confirming that we have the schedule in place to not mow the wildflowers prematurely. I have confidence that but I know that we will get questions on that. So all the Coal Mine Ridge trails, I believe last year there was a request maybe to do some of that same delay on some of the Woodside Highlands trails. Is that?
Yeah, so we've kind of incorporated those requests. So for those that don't know, we mow for number one use and for fire also. And so the fire departments, they have a certain date that we have to meet, get things mowed by our roadsides and our trails. So we've gotten comments over the years of wildflowers at certain places, typically Coal Mine Ridge area. So what we do is we've adjusted our schedule permanently where we mow other trails in town first and then mow those last. And it's very hard to predict when wildflowers are gonna come up. I think in the last several years, we've allowed them to come up, but once again, if it rains and they are delayed later, there is also the fire department, the date requirement too. So we try to balance those things out. I hope I answered your question.
Yep. Nope.
We do permanently have that factored into our mowing schedule. So when people do wonder, well, why did you mow this trail and not this trail and this trail at this time? It's because of the wildflower. And a lot of that time we gauge it by going out there to look when they're gonna bloom.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No, I mainly just wanted to have that kind of on the record here because I know it comes up, it seems to come up regularly and people are concerned of, do we need to raise it every year? Is it permanently enshrined? And it is. I know that there was one request from, and Dan unfortunately is not on here, and maybe we'll ask, I can follow up on this. There was a specific part of Sweet Springs Trail. There was a unique flower. It's one of, I think, the only places in town where that flower blooms. And I can follow up to sort of see, make sure that that sort of is noted for your crew. I believe last year it was noted with some stakes and everything worked out fine, but we could get that in the permanent plan too. I think would be good.
I have a quick question, Howard. Do you find that there are many places where residents have sowed seeds, wildflower seeds, which obviously is not natural, but is that an issue for you?
No, I mean, they did. There are places where residents have thrown out wildflower seed and we'll try our best to avoid them. However, when all grasses and wildflowers are only 3-4 inches, they all look the same. That's the problem, but we try our best. And also a reminder that, everything in the trail tread, there should be nothing growing in the trail tread. So
Yes.
everything in the trail tread is mowed. We're talking about the 3 or 4 feet on either side of the trail within the easements.
I just have one question, and we always talk about this because I'm never totally clear. Admiral Quilters, where do we end and where do they start in the middle? Is it where the big drains, the really steep part with the drainage underneath?
So, okay, so I'll answer that, but once again, back on the wildflowers, it's not gonna be, once again, it's not gonna be perfect because they all look the same, but
Yep.
we try our best. I mean, when things are 3 or 4 or 6 inches tall, you can't tell if it's a grass or a wildflower coming up, but we try our best. Back to the Admiral Quilter question, from the Escobar side, if you go down on the Escobar side, and when you get to the first big culvert that's there, that's 20, I think there's a 15-inch culvert that
Yes.
goes across the trail.
Right.
That's where approximately the line is. So,
Okay,
yeah.
and we all know that there's a giant tree down there, right?
On the,
Right there.
on the Westridge owned side or the town? owned side?
That's the question. It's right at that spot.
Yeah.
It's taken out. I mean, it's hard to walk by, it's hard to walk through it.
I'll make a note of it. If you
Yeah.
can also put on PV Connected, I can tell you, I use
Thought I
the culvert.
did, and I guess it doesn't work from down there. I sent
Okay.
pictures.
Oh,
too.
yeah, that's connectivity down there is not good.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a pretty massive,
We're a little bit, I mean, so I use that as a landmark. We're a little bit before that.
So
The town's
it's-
trail is, if I
Okay.
recall correctly, is about 100 feet before we get to that.
well,
culvert.
then I'll call them Apache. people,
The,
too.
we tried to have it accurately expressed on here. It's a little hard, but that's one reason why getting that Avenza thing would be great, because you could go out there and you can sort of see where we think the line is, so. Okay. Let's see, we don't have any new business, so I think we are done. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, second. All right, we are adjourned at 10:10 a.m. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is April 17th. Thanks, everybody. Same time, same place.
Thank you all. Thanks for your leadership, Fred.
Let me, for that adjourn our meeting, I'll mute and